Joe show in the house. Mic check 1 2, it's the Boba Joe crew. Mark Lennon, Johnny Sorensen coming straight to you. Talking classic eras, yeah, we setting the scene. Films, games, tunes, toys, you know what I mean? From the old school vibe, feeling so divine. Boba Joe show, drop the beat so low. Heavy bass lines make your speakers blow. Kicking it classic, from heads to the toe. Yeah, baby, yeah, watch the Boba Joe show. Mortal Kombat, Predator, Scarface in the flow. Miami Vice 5, MacGyver on the go. Alien screams, NBA Jam all night. Pro wrestling legend, shining ever so bright. Macho Man Randy, Ric Flair. Yeah. Show, drop the beat so low. Heavy bass lines make your speakers blow. Kicking it classic from head to toe. Yeah, baby, yeah, watch the Boba Joe show. Action figures lined up, ready for the fight. Ninja Turtles power shining ever so bright. Transformers roll out, masters of the universe. Classic memories can't be reversed. Yeah, baby. Boba Joe, that's the flow. Boba Joe, Boba Joe.
Do me a favour, if you've got the flavour, and say hello to the friends of the Boba Joe.
Oh yeah, Balai. Hope everybody's keeping well out there in internet land. Had a nice week.
Is internet land as good as Super Mario Land and Pac-Man Land?
Yeah, internet land is like my equivalent of TV land. You know, when you watch those old wrestling shows and the guys doing interview in the ring, and I just want to say to everybody out there in TV land, it's like I always wanted to live in TV land.
I always want to be the TV champ. I watched enough TV. Give me a belt.
I'll defend that belt every week on TV, on free TV.
If there's some Snorks that need a SmackDown or some Smurfs, I'll beat the hell out of the man for that TV belt.
No free TV this week, though. You want to play, you got to pay this week. Some of these arcade games we're going to be talking about. Going to ruin your childhood here. No pocket
luckily,
money
the
left.
earlier games were quite cheap. Not until these later ones we started paying a bit more to actually pay to play these games.
Yeah, we're continuing on our kind of our 90s Marvel kick. You know, we're extending. We got a few 80s games here as well, but you know, the spirit is very much alive here with these Marvel games. Some produced by Konami, lots produced by Capcom. Yeah, we're looking forward to digging in deep and bringing back some memories.
Was there any games? Like for me, I went to the arcades for years, so I saw most of the stuff first time around, played pretty much everything. Is there anything that stands out? You went, oh, we didn't have that there, or didn't get to play that, or
there's quite a few actually. Not so much that we didn't get to play them, but we definitely didn't get to play them until a lot later on. I remember. So I live in a town in the northeast. It's about an hour's drive from Dublin, the capital city. I remember in like the mid-90s, you know, going down to Dublin and seeing stuff like X-Men versus Street Fighter in their arcades and like having my mind totally blown because I was still playing like, you know, Street Fighter 2 back in my hometown arcade. So like, you know, it took a little bit longer for some of these titles to arrive locally, and then some of them I wouldn't end up playing until I was practically an adult when they started, you know, either through emulation or re-releasing them to download officially through various collections or buying, you know, compilations.
I was
Like
pretty
a lot of
lucky
what we're looking at.
in the city. I got so we had a big arcade called Wizards in Christchurch, and that had at any time there was over 100 arcade games, and that's where you'd see like the new stuff, anything new to come out, and then as stuff had been out a few months or even a year, it might filter out to other smaller mini arcades and chip shops around the city and rotate around.
There was some, I can tell you straight off the bat, that Punisher game, I only played that game for the first time literally maybe 4 months ago. Was the
I
very
remember
first
telling.
time.
That's the only one I didn't play when it was new. I found it at a chip shop near, actually it was near a school in my mate's house, because one day, like you go to the local chip shop, maybe every 6-12 months they'd switch out what game was in there, as in they'd swap out the PCB inside. It's still the same physical exterior, usually with the old artwork of 3 games ago. And one day my mate's like, "Oh, the Punisher game, it's near my house. After school, we're going to go and see it." And so I'd known about it for years, but it had been new in the city and rotated and gone to other places, because there's only so many physical interiors that would rotate around the city, and once they're gone, that's it, you can't see them. But like the Street Fighter and X-Men, there was much more copies of that, whereas Punisher there wasn't many. So it was pretty exciting to get to play the Punisher at the bloody chip shop near my mate's house.
Yeah, I'm just looking now. I downloaded, it was the Marvel and like Capcom Classic Collection, it's called.
Yeah, Collection 2 or whatever the hell it was. Like one's got the like the Marvel vs. Capcoms and versus stuff, and then the other one had other different stuff like that, like the SNK versus Capcom one that was in like the other collection.
But I had never played that Punisher, and it's one of those games where I kind of, while I do wish I had played it as a kid, I'm actually glad now I got to experience something new as an adult. I'm not going to lie, man, it was probably one of the best games I played in a long, long time. You know, it was really...
There's actually a Mega Drive port of it, and it's not bad, but it's not great. It's like the characters are much smaller and all that, but it's still fun, but it doesn't even really feel like the same game. It was definitely a conversion. It doesn't feel the same at all, but yeah, that was a great fun game. And you're 2 players, you get Nick Fury in there as well. And I see recently they released that in all these Marvel Hasbro action figures, that they've released that 2-pack that has Nick Fury and Punisher.
Funny you should mention that, Johnny.
Oh yeah, there he is. I couldn't remember. I thought you said had it. I couldn't remember 100% if you.
Yeah. So after playing and loving the game, I ended up getting this for my birthday recently enough. Very nice little set. We got our 2 playable characters, Nick Fury and the Punisher, and I had owned no version of either Nick Fury or the Punisher in my Marvel.
Yeah,
Legends
I've had
collection.
multiple Punishers, but no Nick Furies. This is just my table of contents. It was like the chronological games. So we had 91, had Spider-Man, which was the Sega game. That was the same year we had Captain America and Avengers Data East. 92 got X-Men from Konami. And then basically everything else is Capcom, except for Galactic Storm was also Data East in 95. So I've put a couple of things out of order. Oh, these are just some nonsense images. We try to get I took our faces and tried to get them on some X-Men type characters.
I'm telling you, my mum would love if my hair was that short again. Anytime she sees me, she's always like, "Would you not just get your hair cut? It used to look so nice when we were shorter."
Yeah, that's from that picture of you with X-Pac and that when you're younger. That's why you got the young lads here. Bonus team up with the weird late night super dudes. Bill and Jones are in there.
Yeah, good crossover there, you know.
Look how good Bill's face is. Look, it's illustrated, but it's so realistic.
Yeah, you'd know it was him a mile away.
Yeah.
Really good one there.
Yeah, the Boba Joe man. Late night super dudes.
Unstoppable.
Yeah, try these silly props. Definitely in the Marvel style. But first up, I'm not going to start chronologically with Spider-Man, which is a great game and played a lot of. I'm going to start with X-Men because it's it's the biggest property of the era of the 90s as far as Marvel. It follows on from last week, of course, our talk. And it also, even though it came out in 92, If you look at the art assets and the character roster, it's from X-Men prior to the X-Men, that pilot from '89. Obviously, the game took a while as far as being licensed media to make. So just like the Turtles arcade game I came to, you got, instead of 4 players, we've got 6 players, which is amazing. And the cabinet is actually 2 screens stacked side by side, but it plays as one continuous play field. And this game was awesome. And just like the Turtles one, obviously they sent off art assets and whatever to Konami, who adapted it really faithfully, got the art style really well in the game and the sprites. Beautiful game. I played this so much, and it was so fun to play. It's fairly short. One time, there's a place called Daytona. I think it was called Daytona, USA. Nothing to do with the arcade game. It was a place that had like go-karts in Christchurch, and it also had a mini arcade of like maybe there was about 20 games in there, 20, maybe 30. And that was to play while you're waiting to have you go on the go-karts. But we used to go there just play the games because they had like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat. They had this X-Men game. This is the same one that used to be in the city at Wizards. I know for a fact it's the same machine was over at Daytona. You could look at it and see the scratches and cigarette burns and shit in the same spots. And one time I went there and it had been left on free play and the whole place was empty. It was like it was a weekday weekend. I was the only person in the whole place other than whoever was running the joint as an employee out the back. And it was stuck on free play and no one paid any attention to the video game side of stuff. They're all to do with the go-karts. Don't care what's going on out there. So I was there for like 2 hours just playing this nonstop. I finished it with every single character more than once. And I went from, because you have to go to each joystick position to choose the character sort of thing is locked to that joystick, just like the Turtles. But I just kept playing it until I was basically like my eyes were just like bleeding, and I was like, I guess I'll go home now because I've been playing this thing for like 2-3 hours.
That's like winning the lotto, though, when you're a kid. You know, getting a free play on an arcade machine.
And games used to be 20 cents. I'm pretty sure this was a 40-cent game because it was getting more expensive. So getting the free. And for a kid on a weekend who's got like virtually no money and no, got me push bike and that's it.
It's a great multiplayer experience, though. I actually played a lot of this game, believe it or not, with my younger nephews and niece because there was we had 4 controllers, and when I downloaded it on Xbox 360, we used to just play the hell out of it.
Oh, nice! That's awesome.
Nice fun when you've got Now, we obviously didn't have 6 controllers. There was only 4 of us, but it's great when you've got an actual team and you're just brawling and bashing your way across the screen. Really beautiful graphics for the game as well. The sprites are really nicely animated and it's just so well done. Really, really beautiful look to the game. It makes sense now to what you said about it being based on the pride of the X-Men.
I didn't know until about a year ago. Like it was. I think I was watching that Retro Blasting special where he was talking about the Pride of the X-Men pilot, and then when I was looking up stuff to do with this game, and I was like, wait a minute, like, I know as soon as you see Cyclops, of course, his head's covered over, so that's 80 Cyclops and not 92 Cyclops, and not Jim Lee Cyclops. It's before that, and Wolverine's in the brown costume, and then you got Storm's all in like in her 80s like Egyptian themed costume, and then you've got Dazzler, of course, and in the comics, it kind of went from you had Kitty Pryde, then you had Dazzler. Well, she came back. She was from the 70s, but briefly towards the end of the day, she was back in that costume. Then when you get to the Fox X-Men, it's basically what you see there, except they've rotated Dazzler for Jubilee, and then you add in Jean Grey and change the costumes, and there you go. That's all.
Yeah, they just tweaked it slightly, but the main kind of formula and layout was there. No, it's a fantastic game. Like you mentioned, it is kind of short, but it
doesn't overstay its welcome. Like, there's plenty of boss battles. There's plenty of like generic enemies and whatever, like Sentinels and Alligator Men. Boss battles are fun, but it's made to chew up your money and to like not last too quickly. But then you want to. It's like eating junk food, and you want some more. You want to play it again.
And it's kind of like if anybody out there has played the old Turtles games, a very similar feel to it. And even when you're doing those boss battles, it's the same format every time. The boss will start changing color and kind of flashing when you're weakening sponges. It. Yeah.
It's funny. I mean, like Juggernaut, and he's got like a bloody missile launcher or something. It's like, why? He's Juggernaut. He doesn't need bullets or missiles.
And like the main kind of henchman enemy you're fighting, it's just like mini sentinels you're just beating the shit out of for most of the game.
I
They
love
come
the
in different
a
colors,
track screen
different
would show
abilities.
Magneto, and he has that he's so showing that big kind of sphere, which is meant to be like his like magnetism powers, but he's like flying with it, and it just looks so cool.
Yeah, awesome animation. No, like I said, really nice designs. The sprites look really nice on screen, and it's just so colorful and rich looking when you kind of see it as you're playing it. You might fucking the hell out of my chair here behind me if anybody can hear those crackling sounds.
But yeah, it was an absolute classic game, and definitely like well, I can't remember the first time I ever saw it, but like I remember playing it repeatedly for years. It would be, you know, around arcading it, but just so impressed as for the artwork and the sprites were just beautiful, and it as good looking as the Turtles games were. This game was just like, it was so big, so wide, the double screens, the 6 players, and just the artwork looked amazing. It just looked like you're playing in an actual comic book. It looked awesome.
Yeah, that double screen really adds a lot, especially if you can imagine 6 people on the one cabinet, so you've got a screen filled with heroes and filled with enemies. Like, it's a very impressive feat to behold.
Yeah, I have played it with on 6 player, but I don't know who they were. They're just people at the arcade, you know, when it was on, like when they would have nights at Wizards Nights and stuff, like free play night. You go on a Saturday night, pay $1, and all the games are on free play, and you play them for 2 or 3 hours and go around. So that's when I've played like the maximum players on Turtles and X-Men, just the other kids you don't know. Other than playing with my mate a few times, Luke, a few times I've played stuff with him. But we mostly play fighting games more than the beat 'em ups and the fighting games. But usually we'd kind of rotate and play our own games and watch each other. We didn't often play on the same game till we went home and played Super Nintendo. But just awesome, very memorable cab. And you can get, you know, like here, this is one, looks like this one's got 4 player on this one here. A lot of these, the PCB boards, you can chuck them on different machines and whatever. And you can have it 6 player, 4 player. You could probably set it to 2 player if you wanted to. Like so it's basically customizable to whatever the local arcade has got space for and all that.
Love it. I'd love to have one of the 6-person ones, just like my own personal one.
And it was such a massive machine, and like as big as that was, there were machines even bigger. Like there's I know it was like a Rambo or some kind of Rambo Okari Warriors type of thing that had like 3 screens in a row. I've never seen it, but just reading about in the magazines, there were other ones that were just like horrendously expensive that you just wouldn't be terribly affordable for most arcades to even get them, let alone make money from them.
You'd want to know you had a guaranteed hit in your hands before you got that.
Like your Mortal Kombat 1 and the Street Fighter 2, they made, you know, a hell of a lot of money. They definitely made the money back, whereas some of the big expensive cabs, when they got bigger and bigger and bigger, like, you know, there's deluxe versions of Outrun and mine's gone black. The other Sega one where you're in the jet flying around like Tom Cruise. There's ones there's sit down cabinets of that are on hydraulics where the entire thing moves around like this as you control it. And like those machines would have been like probably 20 or 30 grand worth. They would like massive. They'd fill up nearly a bloody room. And most of the versions are just plain versions.
It's what John Connor's playing in T2 before the T1000.
Yeah, and they had like the Star Wars vector graphics from the 80s. That had a big deluxe sit-in one as well.
That's right.
Okay, so moving on to our next game here. Even though I played this game a hell of a lot, this was Spider-Man by Sega, and it's just called Spider-Man, or Spider-Man the video game, but it's the only Spider-Man arcade game, so it's not easy to confuse it with any other ones, other than Spider-Man appears in the Marvel versus Capcom series and all that. It's the only dedicated Spider-Man proper arcade game from the 90s. And this game was so fun, and the sprites were massive with it, like as big as they were in like Final Fight. I think they were a bit bigger again. They were absolutely massive. It had a really big screen on it. You fought so many bosses and enemies in it. You fought everyone like Kingpin, Hobgoblin, Green Goblin, Doctor Doom, Lizard, Venom. And it had awesome sprite scaling technology like Neo Geo Samurai Showdown, where it would zoom from small to big on the screen. And it had like kind of bonus mini stages in between the main beat 'em up ones where it turned into a platform game and Spider-Man would go real small, and you all of a sudden you're scaling up a building, and it was like a little platform Mario kind of game. And then when you get to the top of the building, it zooms in big and it goes back to being a beat 'em up again. It was a really awesome game and very visually impressive to watch. I think it's the first game, if you look at that screenshot with Venom, where he's actually swinging on the web and he's got the legs out in front doing that swing maneuver. He does it in all the console games since, but I think that's probably the first game that did that. That did it properly. They actually looked not like those crappy 80s LJN ones where you can't hardly tell bloody Cyclops from Spider-Man and stuff, and those rubbish LGN ones, where it actually looks as the art should. And it's all very distinctly Mark Bagley style artwork in this game too.
I only ever got to play this one on the emulator. I never ever saw it in the arcades over here. I'm sure it probably did appear just in my town in particular. I never ever came across the Spider-Man game. It looks beautiful though, like you're saying, like the way they made it look. It's so colorful and bright and vibrant. And, you know, well done Sega on that front. They did a fantastic job. I love that that cab artwork as well. It's beautiful on the side there. Green Goblin, Venom, Lizard.
It has the most random roster of playable characters though. It's really strange.
Yeah, it's still though, you know, you have to give them credit for, like, I'm trying, like, is this the only, well, maybe not the only one, but I can't really think of any other like Sega Marvel games.
No, I didn't even know it was a Sega game. I mean, I haven't played this in more than 20 years, but I have played it a lot. I can still visually remember pretty much all the stages and bosses and hits and whatever, like the animation as well. Until I was looking up who made what, I was like, what? That was a Sega game? It's incredible that they actually made this, like, because they're not known for making beat-em up games.
Yeah, and if you'd showed me the screenshots only, I would have automatically said, oh, it's either Capcom or Konami.
Yeah.
Like, I would have just...
Yeah, Capcom or Konami or Data East or one of those ones that, you know, cranked out loads of stuff back then. But yeah, the playable characters, you had Spider-Man and Black Cat, which makes sense. Black Cat's from comics. But then you've got Hawkeye in his classic Avengers costume, like the purple and blue. And then you've got Submariner. And Submariner, for a special attack, was like electricity, which is, I guess, if you think like an electric eel. But I remember I only vaguely knew who Submariner was from looking at like those books you used to get in those big hardcover books about Marvel 50 years of history. I knew he was from the 40s and the Invaders, and I was like, why is Submariner in this Spider-Man game? He was actually really good in it. He was probably the best character other than Spider-Man to play as, but it was just so random, just like Submariners are there.
Yeah, it's a bit of a random choice for the time, but you know, it was probably some licensing thing they needed.
And just like in the movies and the comics, Hawkeye was the worst of this game. And he's also probably the worst in most of the games he's
really nice though. You can even see from these stills, like they did a great job with the kind of muscular bodies of the characters and just how they're designed. Like, just really nice.
On the screen, which I forgot. Like Batman, there he's going thwip, and it's actually appearing on the screen.
Yeah.
I forgot about those.
And Kingpin strangling there, and he's like, ugh.
I think the style of this must have definitely influenced when they did that Maximum Carnage game on Mega Drive Super Nintendo, because they very much were going like the style and look of this.
Definitely. That's a blast from the past right there. Maximum Carnage. Great game. Fun game.
And the blast of the future later this year when they release that collection that's got some of these, some arcade and some console games.
Yeah, looking forward to getting my hands on that.
But this one, I don't know if I ever saw the 4-player version. I think most time I saw it only had 2, even though they had the character screen of 4. So I wasn't, in my mind, I didn't even know 100% that was a 4-player game like the Turtles ones. So that was actually pretty cool to see. It was like simultaneously 4-player, I mean. So here they go here on the artwork. Look, they've got Hawkeye, and that's basically like his second version or 70s costume. And then Submariner in his like classic look, he's got the winged feet and his little speedos and Spock ears.
What they say, 4 comic book heroes in action-packed adventures. Spider-Man
System 32, which Sega cranked out a bunch of games on that. I think that Jurassic Park game where it's like the shooting one, where it's going into the screen on rails, that's like the same system, full of scaling technology in it. It was quite a powerful machine hardware as far as what it could do for the time. It was pretty damn impressive, and unfortunately, it got no home console conversions. Not really was nothing powerful enough to actually do it authentically. The only thing that comes to mind that could have done it but wouldn't would have been the Neo Geo, because that obviously has scaling technology and shit already built in from doing Samurai Showdown, Art of Fighting, and all that. That was like a feature of that hardware, but you wouldn't have got a Sega Spider-Man game on this Japanese-only console. Wouldn't have made any sense for the big American icon. I think there's no way it could have done on the Mega Drive, but they could have done a very cut-down port on Super Nintendo. They would have had to lose most of the scaling. They would have had to lose quite a bit of animation. But just going on, I mean, the very end of the Super Nintendo's life, they did a credible port of Street Fighter Alpha, which was really amazing. And then the Street Fighter 2 and Turbo ports, all missing animations, but play amazingly. I'm sure it'd be possible to do a scaled-down version, but they would have had to do expanded RAM and memory like they did with Donkey Kong Country and later games. So just the timing of it, 92, you just weren't going to get that on anything, on any home console. It would have cost like $300 instead of $100 and would have had special chips to try and cram it into a console.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe like the Sega CD, they might have been able to do like a slightly scaled down version of it like they did with Final Fight. But
yeah, that's But yeah, this was such a fun game. And this one, to me, plays similarly to the X-Men. It's very simple. You've just got hit, jump, two different jump attacks, and like a kick, and then the swinging forward Spider-Man. And you've got the 2-button special that drains your life. So there's no fancy like special moves. It's just like basic moves like X-Men. Not until you get to Calyx and Dinosaurs now, they started adding more kind of special throws and other stuff, and Final Fight, of course. But it's just as playable and fun today as it was back then. This one, it's quite long too. I think it takes longer than X-Men to finish. There's a lot of bosses and stages in it, but just great fun game. This and X-Men have always wanted to own home console versions, but the only proper way to play them really is on MAME on PC, which you can do. It's not too hard to do these days. So next game is Captain America and the Avengers. This came out before the other ones, but it didn't have as big an impact, wasn't as well known. Of course, when we got to the 90s and Fox was hitting big with Spider-Man and X-Men, that's kind of, they were these big iconic characters of the 90s, whereas Captain America and the Avengers sneaking in beginning of this decade, this is like your granddad's superheroes again, and it wasn't making Street Fighter money in the arcade. However, it was a very solid, well-made game with great stages. At the time, probably the best comic book-related video game in existence as far as being it's got heaps of boss battles, loads of stages and stories that are straight out of different like Avengers stories. I mean, you fight bloody Red Skull, you fight Crossbones, you fight Whirlwind in the first stage. It's got lots of special attacks in the game, like special abilities that don't drain your health, where you can throw Captain America's shield. Vision and Iron Man are a pellet swap. Hawkeye and Captain America pellet swap for the same attacks. Vision and Iron Man can jump up in the air and do a beam from up in the air and like hit your enemies. And really well designed game, great stages. I only played it a little bit in the arcade years after it had been out, when it was getting kind of old and it was real grubby and had their old cigarette burns on the screen and that. But I did have the home Mega Drive port of this, and I still have this actually up the back. I still have the same physical cartridge. That home port was really good. The Super Nintendo version was good too. But I played that over and over again for years, as much as I played like Golden Axe and Streets of Rage. It's a really fantastic home port. And my brother also liked it too. He used to play it with me. My younger brother played it sometimes.
Yeah, I had the Sega or the home console one as well. Very nice wee game to play through. Never ever came across this one in the arcades. Didn't even know it existed, and outside of the home release, I didn't even know.
Yeah, it's easy not even know there was an arcade version, because the console ports are kind of more well known of it.
I got a decent emulated version of it later on for my PC that I used to play a bit.
Yeah, there's a really good fan game of this that adds in. It's got Hulk, Red Hulk. It's got like Vision, Wasp, Wolverine, all in the same style. I forgot to say the sprites in this are quite a bit smaller on the screen. They still look very nice, great animation, much smaller than the X-Men and Spider-Man ones that came later, because there's a very bigger, wider area of play, and you've got to kind of go up and down the screen to fight the boss. There's a lot of screen-filling bosses. There's like a big underwater tentacle robot squid monster and stuff like that. So the screen is kind of different the way, and then it's got flying stages too, where you're flying with a jetpack with Captain America or Iron Man with his boosters and his jets, and you're just firing projectiles. So it's a really varied game. It's so fun from start to finish, and it actually has a lot of speech in it too. It yells out stuff all through the game, and random things that yells out at your attacks and stages and whatnot.
I'd love to get my hands on some of these, or like a good quality print of some of the artwork they produced for these games. Cool. Really nice looking.
The moveset's really good. You can throw the shield, you can hold it into a block, you can pick up enemies and throw them. As you can see, right in the middle of the screen, you can see he's holding a guy up like this. You can throw the enemies at other enemies and use them to do like more damage than that. So tactically, it's really good fun to play. The fan game version I played, the modern one, they added all these characters, and they even added in speech and the sprites, keeping with the style of this. They actually ripped the sprites from like the Mega Drive / Super Nintendo Incredible Hulk game, so he's the same size as these guys, and it's got Hulk in there, and he goes like smashes on the ground, he jumps up and comes down, he does attacks similar to like Marvel vs. Capcom, and it's so fun. I actually like playing the fan version of this even more than the original, just because it adds in completely new stages, new bosses, new everything.
I love that fan-made stuff, man. And like, you know, the old phrase, the fans do the best work. They often do when it comes to these type of projects.
Well, for 2D beat 'em ups, you've got Final Fight Gold, where you've got like all Final Fight and Street Fighter 2 characters and stuff, and like just amazing. And they play as if they'd been made by these companies back then. They're just fantastic. I like this giant robot here, and like when I saw this giant robot, it's so generically, it's just like it's a Sentinel. You see it?
Yeah, total Sentinel there. The fact that they even have to call it giant robot, like just call it a Sentinel. Just call it a Sentinel. Come on, you're not fooling anybody.
Explosions and sound effects on the screen. The backgrounds are cool. They're much simpler looking characters. It's more like something you'd see on 8-bit, like Master System and NES and that, but with fancier Mega Drive kind of colors and everything.
An interesting menu screen there. It almost looks like a painting, as opposed to like any type of comic book art.
And it has, like when you play the game, it has these little storyline screens with little comic panels telling you about Red Skull, but like all those guys you see in that little panel there, I can see like Claw, Whirlwind, Crossbones. You fight all of those guys. You fight like every stage has like 2 or 3 bosses. You fight like everybody who's anybody in this game.
They'll make sure you throw all your coins into that.
Like the end of the game, you fight Red Skull when he's your size, and then he grows to like a kaiju-sized Terminator robot, and that's like the final boss.
Classic final boss move there, you know. I'm going to make myself big like a Power Ranger villain. Yeah,
it's exactly like that. He just got inexplicably goes with big beam thing, big as the whole screen. But yeah, I played this game so much. I mean, the arcade only got to play a little bit, but because I had the home version, I played it over and over again. I got really good at it, and I never got bored of it. It's really infinitely replayable, very fun game. Just don't choose Hawkeye because he's like a stocky 6. But my brother used to play it with me sometimes too, which was fun, because I got to play 2 players together on it. And he didn't mind being Hawkeye, so I won't hold that against him. I was always Captain America or sometimes Vision, because I like Vision better than Iron Man. So we're jumping back in time a little bit to Punisher. Punisher Arcade was another Capcom one. 2 players. You had Punisher on side 1 and Nick Fury on side 2.
Great game. I've been really enjoying playing this recently.
And this has those nice giant Capcom sprites again. Really massive.
It's a brutally violent game as well.
Yes,
of course it would be. Guns. Yeah, like because it's the Punisher, of course. So you know you're not going to have anything too soft.
But every 2 steps, there's guns you can pick up that run out of ammo, and then just grab another one.
even as you're just, blowing guys away with your pistol, or whether you do pick up any of the level guns. Yeah, I just love the whole just run of it. You can rescue people, hostages and stuff. It's just a really class game. And some of the in between or end of level bits where you'll actually see the Punisher, like he'll throw a criminal off a train, or just do something just do something typical that the Punisher you'd expect from the Punisher.
I'll tell
I
you something.
imagine it's the type of game that parents groups would have been up in arms over back in the day because of the level of violence.
It's not really.
that's going on.
It's got the guns, but it's not really like bloody though. The way like Mortal Kombat or everything is. It's more like the
Yeah.
generic violence.
But you're still caving perps heads in, and just
And you fight
doing generally brutal stuff.
in the Spider-Man game and the Punisher game. The Kingpin's like the last boss, pretty much, in both of. I think he's the end boss in Spider-Man. He's definitely the end boss in Punisher, and he's massive, and you can tell they obviously were very influenced by their own final fight, because the end guy, Belger or whatever, in the wheelchair, and that looks a lot like the Kingpin in Final Fight.
Yeah, and it feels like Final Fight when you're playing through it, which I think is a really just the feel of the game almost. It's like if you played any of these Capcom side-scrolling beat 'em ups, you just know the rhythm of the game almost off the bat as soon as you start playing. Really, really smooth experience. And then I think so on the arcade, obviously you just go to the other side to play as Nick Fury. In the classic collection version, you can just select them off the bat from the main menu just to load up the game with the Nick Fury sprite instead. So
the Spider-Man was on the few where you
track.
could actually select, no matter what joystick you're on, you could actually select each of the characters, but most of them you were locked, like the Turtle style. You were locked to that joystick was the character.
As I'd love some type of long print of that Punisher kind of title bit at the top of the arcade cabinet. That would look cool going across the wall.
Yeah, and it usually had like a little simple little well, they were backlit, but they were the same as your ceiling bulbs. You weren't LEDs or anything. They were just plain old light bulbs, which is why they're usually kind of brighter at one bit and at the edges not so much.
There's two bulbs in it, and one bulb kind of went out, and then you just kind of had this half-lit sign.
Yeah. We used to. I've never seen these side decals here of where Punisher where he's crouched down, because most arcade games back then they would change out the internal ROM and chipset or the PCB board, and they'd put something else incompatible from the same company or publisher or whatever. So sometimes you get hodgepodges up to 2 or 3 different games with art assets or stuff that was just really old and didn't make any sense. But if you've been going to the same shop for years, you're like, oh yeah, I remember it was this game. Now it's this one. So it made sense. Often the games wouldn't match at all what was actually in it. You'd see something on the side and it would say, Punisher, but then it might be something completely different in there. It might be bloody Pang or Tumble Pop or something in the machine.
Yeah. They're just reskinning these cabinets and throwing in whatever can fit. It is plasto artwork. I just really love Punisher there at the shotgun crouch.
I've never seen those like marquee side things before. They love it, and it's got that classic 90s Punisher logo too.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, like I said, would have loved to have been playing it as a kid, but getting to play it there a few months ago for the first time. It was just such a treat.
Probably the most buff version of Frank Castle that's ever appeared to.
Yeah. He's been hitting the gym big time.
And it's interesting, these earlier licensed games like this and the Spider-Man, the X-Men, the Captain America. They don't just stick to their own enemies. It feels like it's really Marvel Universe, because here we've got like Reaver's guys from X-Men.
Yes.
We've got Kingpin, who's from Spider-Man, but also Punisher was originally from Spider-Man. But Kingpin by this time became maybe like a Daredevil bad guy in the 90s. You got Bushwhacker, who's another X-Men guy.
Yeah, you just really and that's the beauty. Before we got tangled up in Marvel splitting all their properties and selling them to different studios and entities and stuff, it's great the way they could just put out these games and really just pick and choose what they wanted from the Marvel universe to throw in if they felt it would add to the game. You could just get away with so much. You don't have to worry about, we can't have the X-Men with Spider-Man.
If you got rid of the guns, you could reskin this game and make it a Daredevil game.
Oh, easily. Easily, yeah, very much so.
Just Adam, give him a billy club instead of a pipe, and there you go.
It's the type of thing that, I'm sure a dedicated fan could easily just go in and add a couple of more characters to this to make it like a
there's a
Daredevil
few
game.
fan versions of like this and other ones, and there's some quite good Marvel ones that have massive rosters, but they don't play quite right when I play some. They feel a bit weird. But there are some good fan ones where they've got like the entire Marvel roster of like all the core Avengers, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, Punisher, Deadpool, everybody in like one game that you can actually play as.
Another nice little feature as well, just like in Final Fight, when enemies have guns, when they're actually firing the gun, you can see the used cartridges coming out of the gun and falling on the ground. It's a really nice touch. The gun sound effects in the game are very satisfying as well. Everything's got a real kind of boomstick sound to it. Very nice sound design for the time. But yeah, it just plays like Final Fight pretty much, which is a great game to play. Mood.
Yeah, it's an excellent game. And this one still plays very well today too, as I'm saying. So next up, we're on to X-Men: Children of the Atom was a subtitle, and this was a Capcom arcade one-on-one fighting game with some really amazing looking sprites. They'd really moved on from Final Fight. They'd done I think Cadillacs and Dinosaurs was out by then, but this must have been, I don't know if it's before or after Alien vs Predator, because they were getting bigger and bigger sprites into these games as we're going. This just had the biggest gigantic sprites you'd ever seen in a fighting game, other than perhaps World Heroes from like SNK and Neo Geo, because they did just some very large sprite games too, but they had that scalar technology. There's no other scale business. They're the same consistent size. And the artwork looks amazing. They're just, more than ever, it looks like a comic book come to life, or cartoon if you're watching the X-Men. And really beautiful game. Very unbalanced when you play it. Much more fun on two players than single player. The game cheats really badly when you play it. It just kills you. We're back to basically Street Fighter 2 here. We've got 12 characters. We've got some bosses, of course. I can't remember. I can't remember if Goki's in this one or not. He's a hidden character in most of these games.
I think he is the hidden character.
Yeah,
and I think it's his inclusion in this kind of really starts the ball rolling on, because pretty much all the other games now we're going to look at after this game, like this game was really a catalyst for just Marvel and Capcom just saying, let's just do everything we can. The animation, like, I don't mean to sound like a pervert, like, but the way the women are animated in this game, we got lots of like bouncing boobies and clenched horses and stuff.
And the men bounce too. Actually, now I know what it's the most like. It's the most like Darkstalkers. That's whatever engine and animation they were doing. It's like the Darkstalkers series, which is very distinctly different from Street Fighter, the way the characters stand, move, they play. Darkstalkers was like horror-themed characters, but it's much more like superhero stuff than it is like Street Fighter martial arts tournament stuff. So everyone's very distinctly looking different. I mean, like Colossus is about the size of Victor, of course, from Darkstalkers, isn't it?
Some of these animations and sprites that are introduced now are
the
actually
Sentinel, man. You fight the Sentinel, and he's like fills the screen. He's even bigger than he's taller than Juggernaut in the Marvel superheroes game.
Psylocke is usually who I pick playing, not just this game, but like a good few of these games we're going to look at.
Yeah, probably Psylocke, Wolverine, and probably about like the more balanced characters to play as on this.
Yeah, I just spam teleporting with Psylocke and just like keep appearing the other side of them and just like whacking them. But no, fantastic game. I've been like, I'm not gonna lie, like I've been playing the absolute shit. Pretty much every game now we're gonna look at for the rest of this list, I've been playing the hell out of for the last few months. I really got back into just once I downloaded that Capcom and Marvel collection. The games are just so goddamn good and so beautiful to look at. It's something that might have, if you're susceptible to, or if you're an epileptic or anything, you don't want to play these games because once you get a combo or something going and the screen just starts to like flash white repeatedly, you could easily have a seizure or something if you're like, that way inclined.
The only company that made even more flashing that was SNK and King of Fighters. They did it like even worse with the flashing screens.
Yeah.
But this is
Feels
like
the
peak
eyeballs are gonna
Capcom
burn
art
out of your
and peak
head.
Capcom like just creativity and ingenuity. Like you got Darkstalkers, X-Men, and we're going into the era of Street Fighter Alpha, where they've got the anime proportions, and Bison's on the roids. See, everyone's big and chunky, and looks like they've been working out at the gym and hanging out with the Jim Lee version of the X-Men.
Pretty much this character style that we see now in front of us here is going to stick with the games throughout most of the run.
They use the same sprites through all the subsequent games in the series, which to their credit, because this is like some of the best art they've ever done in these games. So I'm glad they didn't try and reinvent the wheel and try and completely change them in other games, because it would have been throwing away great work. Oh, there he is there. There's Goki.
And this is like the game where, I don't know, like if you've played, we mentioned like, you kind of knew the feel of Punisher if you've played Final Fight. If you've played any Street Fighter or any other Capcom, 1v1 beat 'em up, you're going to know the kind of feel for X-Men straight away. It just has that really smooth, fighting game style that Capcom are known for. Some of the combos are just crazy as well.
This is where you first get the kind of double jump or air jump where you press down up, and all of a sudden the screen is like 3 times tall. You can go like way up above or below your opponent. And that's something they would keep through all the Versus series.
Beautiful looking game. Blew my mind the first time I got a look at it in the arcade.
Yeah, me too. I remember seeing the first time in the arcade, and it was like, whoa, they just looked amazing. There was nothing else that just looked this fantastic at the time. Everything else had like smaller screens, smaller sprites. They just kept going bigger and bigger and bigger. And I don't know for sure, but I mean, there was some competitional rival with SNK who did Art of Fighting, Fatal Fury, King of Fighters, World Heroes. And there was cross-pollination of guys that worked at each of these companies, went back and forth. I mean, the guy who did the original Street Fighters and Street Fighter 1 was one of the key guys that went on to create King of Fighters, for example. But SNK much earlier did these giant sprites and had a Samurai Showdown, had this awesome scaling stuff. So it feels like Capcom were kind of playing catch up, doing these big sprites. And when this came out, you're like, whoa, this is just like better looking than anything.
The inclusion of Goki as the hidden character as well. That's really what gets the ball rolling for all these crossovers we're going to be talking about now as well. It planted that seed of, wait a minute, what actually happens when we bring the Marvel and Capcom universes together. His little Easter egg inclusion started it all.
Yeah, it's fun. Like, he was a hidden character first in Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, I think the Turbo edition or whatever. And then from then on, anything Capcom, he's in so many games. He's in Cyberbots, which is a fighting game where you're in mechs, and there's a hidden version of Goki that's a mech version of Goki.
Yeah, and I think in one of these games, I can't remember whether it could even be this Marvel Superheroes or it could be X-Men versus Street Fighter or something. It's like Cyber Akuma or something like that.
Oh, yes, that's the end boss battle Marvel Superheroes. You've got Apocalypse and Cyber Akuma. In the actual Cyberbots, it's a full, basically like a Gundam that's themed like Goki.
Marvel Superheroes, another great game, and another great game where I'm going to pick Psylocke and just smash my way through arcade.
Sorry, in the Versus series, that's when you get the Cyber Goki, which is the follow-up to this one.
Yes.
But yeah, this game too, they had this in the arcade, but I remember back in Christchurch, we had Comics Compulsion as the main comic shop, and that was the only one we ever had forever. And then around the corner, they had another one called Mark 1 opened up, and it was mostly kind of like younger guys. They had comics, but like people were going there to play like D&D and CCGs and stuff. They had like a table set in the middle for people to play it. So, but for a while they had this arcade game in the front of the shop where you could sit in the window. So you'd sit and be like, oh, they've got this in here, and I'm already going to the comic shop. I'm going to go in and play this now.
Yeah, no, just once again, and now we're getting we're starting to get a flavor, because we had only been dealing with X-Men in the first release, but now we've added a few extra superheroes in from
You got
the
the big
broader
hitters here. You
Marvel
got Hulk,
universe.
Wolverine, Spider-Man, and then you got Cap in there, and that's like, to me, that's like the big four when I think of Marvel.
And I'm guessing they kept Psylocke in the mix just because of how popular she was in the X-Men game. But I know she was
quite
kind
good
of
in this game, but he was at an all-time low for popularity in the comics, so it's always surprising he even makes it into this game.
Once again, we're going to see those sprites. Anything that appears here, we're going to see carried on into the next, the verses, and then as they go on through the rest of the games, pretty much once they introduce a new sprite, it carries on for that character for the rest of the rest of the releases.
So the boss battle in this, you fight Thanos, of course, at the end, and the whole system of this it's just called Marvel Superheroes, but it's the Infinity Gauntlet / Crusade storyline from the 80s. That's why it's got all these gems, which are the Infinity Gems that we know from the Marvel live-action movies and all that.
And as you progress through the game and as you beat each character, you earn one of the gems until, of course, you get to the end and Thanos takes them all from you, and then you have to fight him and beat him.
It's cool, actually, when you fight Thanos, it has all the characters that are turned to stone in the background, which is straight out of the comic. I love that it's got Dr. Doom in here. He was probably my favorite surprise guy. It's like, whoa, Dr. Doom's in this.
They have a nice little kind of end screen. It doesn't matter who you beat the game, or when you beat the game with any of the heroes, basically, you'll also get to see those characters who were previously turned to stone. They actually break out, and you see that they've actually even done proper sprite animations for the non-playable characters in the game as well.
Yeah, it's cool. I remember on the home version on PlayStation, there was like a code so you could play as Thanos as well.
Yeah, so one thing I'll say, and if you ever do get that Marvel Capcom collection, they've done a very nice thing where they will actually tell you in the main menu how to unlock all the hidden characters if you just want to play with them. And some of them they've simplified how to get some of them. Like, you don't have to do any of the weird glitchy things you used to. It's just a matter of hitting down on the D-pad a couple of times and he'll appear on the screen or whatever. They've simplified the getting these hidden characters, so you'll still have a chance to pretty much play as everybody.
I mean, Capcom was great for fan service and home ports of everything they've ever done. They've usually added little things and bonus features. But in the original arcade versions of stuff, when you had a hidden character, it goes all the way back to Street Fighter 2 and first Mortal Kombat. There's all these rumors about fighting hidden characters or choosing hidden characters that went around the playground in schools, magazines. EGM did April Fool's jokes about Shang Long and stuff like this. And then eventually companies went, oh, this is getting so much buzz about this hidden character, because they started putting hidden characters in the games. And some of them would be time locked, where the game would have to be playing for more than 1,000 hours or be out for 3 or 6 months. And then it would be unlocked. You couldn't choose them. You still had to know a secret code, which nobody in the world knew until someone from the company leaked it out to like a video game magazine or something. And then it would start spreading out word of mouth through magazines, schoolyards. And there would be you'd have to highlight a character and go down for 2 seconds, then up and across and do this, and then hold and press this 2-3 buttons. And it was real easy to fuck it up. And most of the time you'd go, this is complete bullshit and it doesn't work, until someone does it who knows how to do the code. And you're like, oh, there is a hidden character and it does work, and they're overpowered and crazy.
And you go tell people you saw it or you did it, and they don't believe you.
And people go back and play the game that they haven't played for 6 months at the arcade, So it's a way of kind of extending the life of these games to put little extra features and stuff on them.
Yeah, Marvel Superheroes, great wee game, and it is a nice touch. The whole collecting the gems thing was a very nice
the backgrounds are fantastic in this one too. Probably much more interesting. The X-Men backgrounds are fine, but fairly generic. The Marvel Superheroes had really more interesting backgrounds, layers, and stuff going on in them. And
it must have been cool at the time as well, if you are just mainly a comic book fan who happens to play video games, and you're seeing some of these environments. Yeah, they're kind of being brought to life for you, especially if you're not watching the animated shows. This is a nice way of seeing those kind of famous locations in a new setting.
I never knew back then, or even now, Shuma Gorath. I'm just like, who the hell is that? It's obviously some weird Like he looks like a Marvel version of Starro, basically, just a weird alien tentacle dude. But they did a figure of him in the last year or so that's quite nice, overpriced, but has a different name. But it's the same character. It's from those same gamed themed figures because way back in this era they did Marvel vs. Capcom action figures from Toy Biz. I used to have a few of them. I had a really nice Captain America. Had War Machine, who had like vac metal on him. And they did a really good series of games. Venom had the Venom one. Series of figures back then that tied in with these games and such. So next up game, which won't have much to say about it, is Avengers in the Galactic Storm 95. So this is mid-90s. For some reason, Data East, who did the Captain America game we talked about earlier, which was a side-scrolling beat-em-up / sometimes flying and bone stages, that game was fantastic. Data East is a really excellent company, along with like Konami and Capcom, for making great games throughout the 80s and into 90s and bloody vertical scrolling shooters and all sorts. But this game, based on Avengers and Galactic Storm, was just a tie-in comic book crossover thing that's like forgettable and wasn't terribly popular then or now as far as being a crossover thing. It's kind of up there with like Atlantis Attacks for forgettable storylines. It's another Kree Skrull kind of war time thing from the 70s. But there's 4 selectable characters. You've got Iron Man, Thor, Vision, and I'm not sure who the other guy is, to be honest. It's because he's so small. But I don't believe this ever got released in Australia or New Zealand. If I'm wrong, if anyone knows the different, tell me. But I've definitely never seen it in a physical cab of this ever anywhere. And I only heard it even existed in like little tiny screenshots in a US American, like a Game Pro or EGM, whatever. Never seen them in person. So I had a quick look at long plays on YouTube. It's got 3D rendered graphics like Donkey Kong Country style, but you're playing in a strictly 2D plane, 2D game. So it has quite a strange look to it. Definitely doesn't look all beautiful like a Capcom ones. One interesting thing, before the X-Men versus Street Fighter and games like that, and even King of Fighters, it has striker characters. It doesn't have tag battles, just strikers, which is what these extra characters are. I can see like Black Knight and whatever up there. You can press the button and have the other partner character come running into the battle, which you can see on that top right there. You can see there's extra characters running into the screen. So that did something innovative. I didn't know that, for Capcom and SNK, who both went nuts with having striker characters running in during one-on-one battles. This game got there first. But the backgrounds are fairly ugly, and some of the enemies don't even have names. Like the first character is a generic-looking dude who's called Foe Opponent. So it's like I don't know what the budget on this game was, but I'm guessing they probably used a lot of it on doing the rendering and whatever. Like, you know, all those Silicon graphics where they had these new computers that would render all this amazing stuff, but then they would translate it back to a TD. But it was a very slow, expensive process.
Yeah, the sprites look okay, but yeah, the backgrounds are a little bit questionable. The stage design,
the audio.
Yeah, I'd imagine the budget
they
was
yell
low.
out attacks and stuff like the Capcom one. So the audio, I would say, was actually quite good, but the gameplay wise, it's nothing special. The graphics are a bit jank. It's very much in between sort of times when we've gone from like Super Nintendos to PlayStations, and when we're changing from like physical cartridges to CD-ROMs, and every company out there was kind of doing the technology race for like what's the new graphical style or what's the new technology going to be. So it's trying to be kind of innovative, but if it had been earlier or later, it might have been a better game. It's right in between stuff.
Only 4 playable characters is a bit of a kick in the stones as well. Like,
yeah, that really surprised me. There's only 4.
You could understand it was some ancient like C64 game or something, but we're well into the era now of being able to do a lot more with video games. It's just they were obviously very low on budget, I think, for this game.
It's quite strange that like Data East would go chasing after the Marvel licensable thing at this point in time. It just seems weird because it's been so many years since that Captain America game, and they've got all these beautiful like Capcom games and stuff they're out now. It's like, why they went and did this? It's like, doesn't look like Final Fight, doesn't look like Tekken, doesn't look like Donkey Kong, but it's a mixture of 2D and 3D stuff and different elements that don't quite mesh. And one of the backgrounds has Lalandra sitting on a chair, so that's the only thing I recognise in either background.
Yeah, but even like before we started recording today, when I dropped in, you were kind of looking at footage from this game, and it was the first time I'd ever even laid eyes on the game.
That's why I brought it up, so you can see it, because it's so. I know it was rare. I couldn't say how many units got released in America, but I know it didn't make any kind of dent in the arcade scene like then or now. No one's ever looked back and gone, "Oh man, remember this game?" and nostalgia. It was just like a dud sort of thing.
Yeah. There's no way this could have competed with the Capcom fighters at the time.
No, they had good intentions, but just I don't know the timing of it. You know, if this had been like 1989, 1990, and you saw this, you'd be like, "Holy crap!" If it had been before Mortal Kombat, but after Pit Fight, you'd probably be blown away looking at these graphics. But mid 90s, you're like, we've got Darkstalkers, we've got Super Street Fighter, we're coming on Street Fighter Alpha, Marvel Superhero. It's just like, no.
Yeah. Not going to cut the mustard during this era.
We've got, you know, bloody Soul Edge and Tekken in this era, and even Battle Arena Toshinden, first game of that didn't look great, but it's better looking than this. Okay, so next up we've got X-Men versus Street Fighter. This is the first of the official crossover games where it's not just a cameo like a hidden Goki Akuma, but a proper crossover. And it's interesting that they didn't go. I mean, the following game was Marvel Superheroes versus Street Fighter, but they definitely went X-Men. Even though this is getting into like mid to later 90s, X-Men was still the flavor of the 90s for Marvel. They were still the big money earner. They were more well-known at this time pretty much than Spider-Man and Hulk and Cap. So it made sense based on that animated series, toys, you know, whatever else, that the X-Men was still the big money earner and still doing more at the comic shop, but like had much more brand recognition. So it makes sense that they went with an X-Men specific crossover game. Plus, of course, they'd already made that actual X-Men game to have all those sprites. So there's less work to do.
Well, I got a few. We can even see there in one of the bottom screenshots, see Blanca there in the background and chilling in the wilderness. I think that's the same stage where, if you scroll over, you'll even see Beast is like sitting on the other side. Like one background where you can see Blanca and Beast.
Background things. And that's actually a very SNK style thing in the all through the Art of Fighting, King of Fighters, and Samurai Shodown stuff. For years, SNK / Neo Geo would do these amazing backgrounds with really cool characters and stuff from older like 8-bit side-scrolling arcade games or nothing to do with fighting. They'd put all sorts of stuff in there. And then Capcom kind of started copying that from them. Capcom, even I'm not bad-mouthing Capcom's Street Fighter backgrounds, but they were always meant to be fairly generic and iconic, whereas SNK stuff was very personalized and very interesting and kind of intricate, all these characters they put in. So Capcom started copying that sort of thing from them, including having these like cameos of characters from other games or from the company or the series, little Easter eggs basically to, you know, spot in there.
And you can tell by the look of Ken and Ryu, this is definitely the Street Fighter Alpha version of the Street
literally
Fighter
it's the same
characters.
Actual art assets and all that. And Ken's got his big crazy eyebrows.
And big crazy eyebrows. He uses extra long hair, which has been tied together by the piece of red material that he will later give to Ryu. But for the moment, Ryu's got his white headband.
That's the other way. Other way, you know that it is the Street Fighter Alpha sprites too, because he's got the white headband, of course, and looks younger.
Yes.
And I've always loved the art style in Street Fighter Alpha. For some people, I like Street Fighter 2 Turbo / Hyper and Alpha. When we get to Alpha 2, Alpha 3, they're kind of my favorite overall Street Fighter games like ever. But I love the art style on both of those. Like the original Street Fighter 2 is like your final fight, kind of comic booky, rendering, muscular and lean. And when we get to the Alpha series, they're wider and bulkier. It's a very specific anime style, and it's a very beautiful style that translates very well into sprites and on-screen action.
I think what I always liked about Street Fighter Alpha is that it was clear to me that they kind of took inspiration from the 1994 Street Fighter animated movie. It always felt like their characters were heavily kind of modeled after that, which of course then matches them up perfectly with Marvel characters. Because it's that same you can do that similar art style, and they just gel really well together.
You got the art style, bright colors, and they're more cartoony comic book colors than the kind of darker tone, the original Street Fighter stuff. And everyone's wider, and they don't look like they're all on steroids, but everyone's basically buffer in these games. If you see them,
very muscular, very cut.
And it also ties in with that Jim Lee era of X-Men, where it's like all the women are like super glamorous swimsuit supermodels with the big hair, and all the men are like super strong and buff, like Stallone and Rambo and all that.
Yeah, I love it. I love that look. I have to say, I'm a big fan. This is a fantastic game. When like I said at the beginning of the show, I first got a glimpse of this in the Dublin arcade, and it blew my mind. Just couldn't get over that it was something that existed, X-Men versus Street Fighter.
Yeah, me too. I was like, when I saw it, I was like, what the hell? The first time I saw it, I thought, oh yeah, it's just another Street Fighter. There's Ryu and Ken. Then I'm like, wait a minute, there's like X-Men, because someone's playing it, I hadn't seen the title screen. And then you're seeing the X-Men, and like bloody Wolverines in there. I'm like, what? You think, is that another hidden character? Then you find out it's a whole crossover game. First time I saw this was at Hoyt's 8 in Christchurch, which is the cinema complex. It used to be in the old train station there. They had another mini arcade there that was next to the cinema. It's there to, pass the time while you're waiting for a movie. And they might had, average 20, 30, sometimes 50 arcade games in there before they started getting rid of them and bringing all those ticket machines and crap. But yeah, the first time I saw that was in there, because they still had other Street Fighters. They had they had most of the core 2D and 3D fighting games, whatever was out this time in the Hoyt's 8 mini arcade.
We also got like a Toy Biz toy line out of this game as well.
Yeah, there was a whole toy line. I used to have a few of the things. Like I had the actually technically I still have some of these in a box in the room. I've been trying to give away to a friend. I haven't got around to posting over in New Zealand. Like the Gambit and the Rogue, I've got the Wolverine, some of which were new sculpts, some of which are redone from earlier Toy Biz ones. Who else did I have? I had I had War Machine, which is from the following game, the Marvel vs. Capcom. War Machine in the metallic colors. They had a Venom. Yeah, they did a whole line that was Toy Biz, which will actually not to give away too much what we're talking about next week, but it's a Resident Evil topic. But they literally use the same boxes and packages for the series of figures as they did on the Darkstalkers and the Resident Evil toys.
No, brilliant. No, I loved the toys, and just another cool thing that kind of spun out of this collaboration between Marvel and Capcom. Not only
they were really good. They were very good sculpts all the time. I still have
really good for the time.
Darkstalkers. And he's got a little gimmick where you press the button and his hair and his brain pops out of his head.
Nice gimmick there. Nice play feature, you might say.
It's a whole sub-line of Toy Biz stuff they kind of forget about, because I've been watching Zazel's series, Zazel and Adam, talking about all Toy Biz through the 80s and 90s, doing Batman and Marvel and DC and all that. But they had this whole other line where they did these versus games as a whole action figure series. It ran for 2 or 3 years. We've seen the comic shop, and then that went into doing the Resident Evil ones as well.
Some color matching sprite action going on here. 2 Chun-Lis, 3 Chun-Lis, really,
Yeah, they started to go. I like that you can choose the they expanded the color palettes for the alternate characters. They carried over from like Super Street Fighter, where you went from having 2 color palettes to having, I believe there was 6 for each button in Super Street Fighter. Start was another one, and then sometimes you could hold a button, press another, and you could get colors 7, 8, sometimes up to 10 or something ridiculous like that.
Very iconic menu imagery there of Ryu shaking Cyclops' hand,
Yeah, and they came back to that again, and that became the overall symbol for not just this, but the whole Marvel vs. Capcom series and all that up to today was like these 2. So next up, Marvel Superheroes versus Street Fighter, which that's the title of the game. Technically, this is the first Marvel vs. Capcom game, if you think about what it actually is. So the second
is
by the time we get to the first one, that's basically the second one, and then the third one is really the fourth one, etc. But this one is my favorite in the series. Even though Marvel vs. Capcom was very good, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is very good, this game was my favorite, where it felt, before it got kind of too bloated and overdone, and there's so many options and characters and things, and went from 2 people to 2 characters to 3 playable characters. This one felt a bit more accessible, and it was difficult, but not too difficult.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I suppose at this point, the only thing that's making it not really Marvel versus Capcom is that we're still technically, just we're sticking to Street Fighter only as the Capcom representation, but they're going to bust down that wall in the next game, and they're just going to open it up to all Capcom.
This has got like the most
pretty much
hidden characters in it too. Like you've got like Nash or Charlie, who's in Street Fighter Alpha, is there as Shadow, and you've got like powered up different versions of like about half the characters in the game. There's like powered up versions of Hulk. There's like an evil Ryu. You've got Goki again, of course. Sakura. There's all these alternate versions. You can see Mephisto, who's actually Blackheart, but is actually called Mephisto. There was heaps of these alternate hidden characters in the game, which are just palette swaps of the existing art assets, but they'll have distinctly different powers and movesets and stuff. That was quite cool.
Probably should be noted as we're progressing through these games as well. They're always upping the ante when it comes to what you can actually pull off in terms of like character combos and air combos and stuff.
Yeah, the crazy kinetics and backgrounds. I'll be 2 seconds. Just tend to Pedro.
Yeah, it just like I mentioned earlier, if you're suffering from any type of condition where flashing bright lights can land you in a spot of bother, you don't want to be playing any of these Capcom fighting games from this era. It's there's a lot of strobe effects and craziness going on when you're hitting some of these special moves. See here, I believe it is Ryu getting the big dragon punch on Dan here, and Dan literally being set ablaze from it. And that's the other thing about these games. You like the earlier Street Fighter and other Capcom fighting games, they always had nice animation and nice sprites and good hit effects and all that. But with these Marvel and Capcom games, they just turned the dial up to 11 when it came to how moves impacted people and the type of damage and stuff you were seeing. Just crazy town. These Cyber Akuma here.
Yeah, Apocalypse looks cool, and I like how they have this big screen-filling boss of Apocalypse, which goes back to the X-Men lore, where he can change size and appearance. And then, actually, I had the action figure of this too. He can pull his hands off, and actually has the drill attachment on his hand and stuff.
Yeah, a great boss. Yeah, and it looks really class when you're actually fighting him. When you're just trying to hit him in the jaw, hit him in the hand, and avoid being squashed or pelted away.
I'm trying to remember who the boss was in the X-Men now, because you've got Apocalypse in this. Marvel vs. Capcom, we had Onslaught, and then Abyss in number 2.
Does Apocalypse do double duty?
Or is he in both? I think he's in both.
Yeah, I think he's in both. I think he's
remember.
In both. Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's in both. That's one thing when you're playing on the collection, the games start to kind of bleed into each other when you're trying to remember what's what. But this is still kind of single. No, we've started doing the tags now by this point.
Yeah, we go from the first one, X-Men versus Street Fighter. We get the 2-on-2, where it's a tag battle where you can press the 2 fierce buttons at the end, and it would swap the character out in real time. Which, unfortunately, when they did home conversions on PlayStation, you couldn't do that. It didn't have the memory to. It goes back to being 1-on-1 as well as missing. Yeah. But if you had the Sega Saturn version with the RAM extra cartridge, then you could actually get basically nearly arcade perfect versions of these games. So it was the system to own if you liked Capcom fighting games.
Adam Biggie. Look at that artwork. While we're taking in this beautiful artwork, I will say this: there has recently been a very nice Marvel vs. Capcom art book released. I saw it a couple of weeks ago. I was up in Belfast, and in Forbidden Planet they had a copy of it. Really, really nice book. probably something I will try and pick up once I have the funds available again, because they have lots of examples of the type of art we're looking at now. Like some of these posters were just beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
I remember when this one came out, I was annoyed. I was like, why is there no Fantastic Four? We've got all these extra characters.
Yeah, but don't worry, we'll get there. Like, so I suppose the big thing is, I suppose now the gates have been opened on the Capcom side, because up until now we've only been dealing with the Street Fighter characters essentially.
And I didn't know who a lot of these Capcom guys were back then. I knew Captain Commando because I'd played that game. But like Jin's from Cyberbots. He's the pilot of one of the mechs. I never knew who the heck he was, even though I'd played Cyberbots.
Mega Man, of course, there, you know, heavy hitter.
Yeah, and Roll.
Yeah.
It's Strider, who always had a very memorable arcade game that was very popular.
It's one of those things, I'd imagine if you were playing these as they are releasing, I'm sure there's times where you get annoyed where, oh no, there's no Psylocke now, even though I know she's in this game. But like, say for example, like, because you know they'll make that choice where they're going to take a character out to put another one in.
Yeah, I don't mind that War Machine's the main guy instead of Iron Man, because he's just a palette swap, and War Machine's just cooler anyway. And for a fighting game, he's got more weapons. Jin's a strange one, but he's just the deep cut for Capcom. And there's an entirely new sprite and move set and everything that plays differently from any other character in any Street Fighter or whatever.
A lot of these people that are kind of missing now, they're all going to just literally, when they do the sequel, they're all just going to like appear.
Yeah,
and that's when the gloves are really off, when we, because it feels like we get a very, very fleshed out. For the second game, you're going to have people from like back in Resident Evil and everything showing up in the game.
Yeah, I love when they start having Resident Evil ones. Then it starts to feel like, oh, this is not just Capcom of the 80s and the old arcade games and, you know, like 2D side-scrolling stuff. When it starts to have like more modern stuff like Resident Evil, it's like, oh, that's cool, man. That feels like the Capcom, the new generation Capcom, you know, the new blood there sort of thing.
I know we're going to be talking about it now in a minute anyway when we move on to the second one, but I will say, as a personal preference, even though there are less characters in this one, I think I prefer the first Marvel vs. Capcom to the second one overall.
I do too, mainly because the second one cheats really badly and the game is so difficult when you're playing versus a CPU.
Yeah, especially for the final boss. It's a
the boss is a big bastard. It's not just a bastard; he's a pack of bastards.
Sometimes, and maybe it's just me being getting a bit long in the tooth. I find it easier to strategize controlling like 2 characters in a tag as opposed to 3.
Because you got to juggle all those recharging life bars when you tag them out and all that.
And also, as I get older, I get the old man hands. And you know, when you're trying to KO 3 opponents instead of 2, it's like, my God, will these rounds ever end? You know, I just want to move on to the next round.
Yeah, like, I love these games, but I still prefer, well, 2 things. One, I prefer just ordinary Street Fighter 2 where it's one-on-one. Any fighting game, I prefer one-on-one versus any, like, I don't mind Tekken tag battle on occasion, but I'd rather play one-on-one Tekken. But it's fun for a novelty. I'd rather play two-player Tekken tag battles fun versus arcade. No thanks. But I like the King of Fighters games. Go right back to King of Fighters 94 and the early ones. In those games, you chose 3 characters each, or 3 versus you, 2-player versus CPU. But you don't hot swap them and tag them in and out. They're just rounds like any other game where it's just 1 versus 1. And when you lose a character, then the next one comes in and the screen goes away, the round ends, then it goes to the next one. It's not too over the top and overloading your brain and senses. It's much more slowed down. And it's the strategy to me works better because in the King of Fighters, you could kind of choose your weaker, stronger character and who you're going to choose first. Whereas in these games, it doesn't really matter who you choose first because you can swap them anytime. You can actually, they don't tell you, but you can actually hold buttons on the in-between screens to actually choose who your first character is going to be, no matter what order you chose them in. But it feels more strategic in King of Fighters, which was the first series to have 3-on-3 before any of these tag battles or anything became popular. It did everything. Tekken, they did Dead or Alive. Everyone started doing these tag battles.
And this is the game as well, where even though it's like 15 characters altogether that are playable, but then you've got all these additional characters that will only come in during the
Yeah, the
fights that you can
strikers
call
that come in
upon.
and do an extra hit and set up a juggle or a combo, and yet like Thor would come in and do the Mjolnir and do electricity across the screen. And
So even if you weren't always getting to play as these characters, you were still getting nice little cameos throughout the game from these unplayable heroes and
yeah,
villains.
good use of pellet swaps.
Nice
Like I can
touch.
see in that little screenshot there's like US agent pellet swap for Captain America, Orange Venom. You got more, just like Marvel superheroes, there's more secret playable characters who are just like powered up versions of regular ones, like the Orange Venom and other weird variants.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, lots of little hidden characters and sprites you could avail of if you knew what
I
you were
love the
doing.
animations of Venom, all the symbiote. That was some of
Yeah.
the best animations ever had.
Doing a symbiote shield and stuff like that. Just some really,
Mm.
really nice visual effects at play there. But
Yeah, even though I prefer playing the Marvel superheroes one, I just find more enjoyable. The first Marvel Capcom was really it was super exciting when it came out, that they were fully embracing this wider kind of universe and roster of characters and stuff.
and it seems so, like, these days, like, crossovers happen all the fucking time with everything. Like, it still was very much a novelty. It felt like back then for something like this to be
You had
coming
Mick
together.
Zangief. He was all kind of grey and he could breathe flames, and the flames were just repurposed from, I think, from the Jin sprite or something. But he had super armor like Juggernaut. He could walk across the screen and nothing could stop you, but you can't block. Did massive damage, but no one could block your attacks. You just keep walking and hitting them over and over again.
I love this blurb right in the center. It says, everybody had the notion, nobody believed it could happen. Nostalgic characters come together. It's not a dream. Really selling it to us here. And I know I've been plugging that classic collection that you can download or buy on disc.
Yeah, I'm glad they're available.
Also,
for a lot of years, you couldn't get them. You had to buy, I think on Dreamcast was the first machine you could actually get proper arcade ports of these without any compromises. And then there was a lot of years went to Xbox Live Arcade and other crap. We just couldn't get this stuff, or occasionally you'd get a physical edition of something on a disc, and then it was out of print for years. So it's great that Capcom, to their credit, has done big collections now of like SNK versus Capcom, Marvel versus Capcom, and then the bonus game that Punisher's on there, as you mentioned earlier.
It's a pretty cool looking cabinet right there.
Yeah, I think that's someone's custom. I think it's someone's custom in their house or whatever, because it was on eBay. So
yeah, it looks like a mix of the two different art styles. Very nice. For Marvel vs. Capcom 2. This is now, like, even though I said I probably preferred the first one, and like Johnny, I think Marvel Superheroes might be the best of the bunch. But that being said, MVC2, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, easily one of the biggest 2D fighting games ever. A massive hit in the arcade.
Amazing game.
Yeah,
and
it really is. It really is.
There's a reason. Do you know why? Do you know why it's arcade perfect on the Dreamcast, unlike everything else in the series?
Why?
Because it's the same game, and it actually plays a disc, and not a. Actually can actually play. It actually plays a spinning disc inside the arcade machine. It is the same game. Like I've even seen it myself. Someone open up the machine in the arcade.
I remember for years. So obviously there was that Dreamcast release, and then I believe the original Xbox, as in the first Xbox, also had Marvel vs. Capcom 2 on it, which for years was the only other console version you could find of it.
Yeah, which is very unfortunate.
I remember
because those controllers on the Xbox, it was virtually unplayable. Like, doesn't map well to the D-pad for playing fighting games, and you didn't have the options now of all the hoary fighting arcade sticks you can get for virtually everything now.
Yeah, I remember shelling out, I think, for the old Xbox version, and then 2 months later they announced that it was just going to come up for download on Xbox Live for a quarter of the price. I was like, for fuck's sake.
Oh, that
Look
sucks.
at that.
But I
56
love the
playable characters.
I'm not so much a fan of the gameplay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's unfairly difficult if you're playing single player versus CPU. It's a good game for playing on 2 players casually. It's probably the only game in the series that stands up for tournament play for like hardcore players because it's a bit more balanced in that respect. But that takes it away from the more casual, fun side of things to where you have to be more technical. There's crazy combos in this that just take off like all your health. So once someone hits you, you're just dead. If you didn't block their first hit, you're just dead. And I'm like, well, I don't enjoy that. That's not fun to me. But on the plus side, well, one other thing, I don't like the 3D backgrounds, and I hate the fucking soundtrack and music in this game is headache inducing, as much as like listening to Daytona USA on a loop. But the sprites and the artwork are the absolute best. It repurposes in all the ones from the previous games into one big melange, as well as adding a whole bunch of new stuff. And the sprites and the art are amazing and beautiful. I love seeing, I can't remember, was Jill in this one or not? I can't remember, was it this one? The first
Jill,
one?
yeah, Jill.
She brings in the Tyrant
part.
as a striker character. And like, I love seeing that. Well, there she is there down the bottom with the beret from the first game. I love seeing the Jill in 2D and the proper Marvel vs. Capcom style art. That was beautiful, more so than seeing them in the 3D in the later ones. And the Tron Bond character was awesome because I love the Tron Bond video game. It was great fun.
Yeah, it's a fantastic roster. Like 56 characters. That's an insane roster. And you know, it's one of those things though, like this game, and I'd imagine it was the same if you're playing in an arcade. It will wear you down though, because when you're going for the KO on 3 opponents,
it takes a long time to finish this game.
It does. And this is one game where you mentioned those super strong combos that can like insta kill you. You kind of do, as frustrating as it is, you kind of need to play that way. Otherwise, the game lasts for fucking ever. Because if you're just trying to like, if you're trying to wear down characters just doing your regular special moves, you're going to be playing for a long, long time because the energy bar is fucking massive in the game.
I just don't like if you're playing. If you're playing 2 players and someone who's good at this versus someone who's a casual player, they're just going to kill you every time. You've got no chance in hell. It kills the kind of casual side of it. Whereas if you're playing versus someone who doesn't really know how to do big, crazy 10-string Tekken-like type stuff, you can still play it like any other fighting game without not having to know all the fancy techniques and stuff.
Yeah, the biggest mistake I made when I started playing Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is, well, it wasn't really a mistake. It was the only really way I knew how to play was that traditional Street Fighter way where you would have a couple of characters that you knew well and you learned the moves for, but that didn't really work in this game. You kind of had to know multiple characters and know how to use them well together, because if you pick a bad team, you can just kind of fuck yourself up straight away, like, you know, by just having characters that don't gel well together, like fighting on one side.
Yeah, you got to have a mix of stuff. Like there's a lot of projectile attacks on this, and then you've got beam attacks like Cable and Cyclops that go the whole screen and basically just kill everything and kill. The easiest way to kill the bosses is to choose Cable, of course.
Sometimes I used to like choosing like themed teams as well. It's like I'm going to do.
That's what I wanted to have the theme team, but you've got to try to get something that actually works.
Yeah. But, you know, you have your wacky combinations there of like, you know, Spider-Man, Jill Valentine, and like Blackheart. Like there's a team there that could probably do some serious damage if you unleash them in the right order. You know, just there's so many different combinations of characters that you can do. There's a lot of strategy in the game.
Sun there in the middle, which is like the Monkey King from Journey to the West. So I think it's a female version of this game, but that was actually an 80s game just called Sun, the Capcom game.
Too bad we never got. Well, I suppose they only have a finite amount of characters they'll give you, but we never got any of the heavy hitting Spider-Man villains for any of these crossover games. Never got like. I know we got Venom,
but you don't get Lizard or Doctor Octopus would have been a cool one to have the arms and all that.
Imagine doing like Dr. Octopus versus Omega Red with those metal tentacles going back against each other, you know?
Yeah, you got Omega Red, who's already got the animation for the arm. They could have repurposed some of that. You could have
Green Goblin,
used some of the Venom animations for proper Carnage.
Yeah, it's odd. We never there was just Spider-Man, for whatever reason they just didn't go too deep. I suppose though, where do you draw the line? like because you only have so many character slots you can fill.
Yeah,
And
they definitely go kind of X-Men heavy again because they're the kind of money sellers and most well known in this era and that. Whereas like Fantastic Four, noticeably absent. I didn't know. I think there's some strikers occasionally in some of these, but I didn't know back then about all this licensing stuff. I remember reading in magazines like how Marvel went bankrupt and how Toy Biz basically owned it and all that sort of business. But what I didn't know is when they were off selling the film rights to Spider-Man to James Cameron for the first one that never happened, they were also selling these rights for all this other stuff to Fox, like Fantastic Four and X-Men. That's what stuffed up some of these things. That's why you don't get Spider-Man, the arcade Sega game, still has never been released on anything ever, because the Spider-Man rights got tied up by LJN and then by Activision, later on by, what is it, Insomniac or whoever the hell does the modern ones on PS4. Basically, those specific licenses were for either just arcade or just home console, and that's what stopped some of these characters appearing in certain games and whatnot, and why you don't see the Fantastic Four until some shitty games years later on home PlayStation and that.
Yeah, 'cause you got your main Fantastic Four villain and Doctor Doom, but like
yeah, that's
everybody
weird.
else
It's like you
is
got the
just
villain,
missing.
but you haven't got the. Like, I want to be the Thing, man. How can you want to be the Thing versus
Yeah.
Juggernaut and Hulk? And
Yeah,
when they release these games, I'm like, where the hell's the Thing?
And like, I don't really have any Fantastic Four toys, but I at least have a Thing toy. Like, you have to have
Yeah.
the Thing in there. You just kind of have to.
Yeah, he's one of the legacy characters, man. It's so strange.
Yeah, like you said, though, we've moved into, because this is like, what is this, the year 2000, I believe, or 2001? Like, we're definitely in that era of stuff being sold off, and
Yeah,
the IPs
like
going to different companies.
To Capcom's credit, they did great art and all that, and what they were given with. You look at the Capcom roster of characters, just them. They've got classic Street Fighter characters. Then you've got a couple of Darkstalkers. You've got deep cuts of like Mega Man, Sun, a character that I still don't. Ruby Hart, who's like one of the main characters. I still have no idea to this day what the hell game that character's from or what they were to do with, but a nice design. And you've got all these big roster, and you've got stuff from classic Street Fighter Alpha. You've got bloody Charlie Nash in there, and bloody Jin from Cyberbot. So it really varied. And you look at Marvel, and it's like they're good characters, but other than the big hitters like Captain America, Spider-Man, Hulk, Wolverine, there's some really, it's like, here's ones that are in X-Men, here's ones in Marvel superheroes, and then just a couple of random ones. And you don't get the deep cuts like the Capcom. And it's like, why is there no Doctor Strange? Why is there no Mr. Fantastic with his stretchy powers or the Thing? And why is there's no Silver Surfer? It could have been like an Iceman asset redo.
We wanted to do the, Mr. Fantastic versus Dalcium Dream match.
Yeah, there you go. You've even got stretchy technology arms already in there. It's just, but yeah, it was because it's not because the Capcom didn't want to do them. It's because of this licensing nonsense with Fox and other bullshit in the 90s.
Although we were lucky to get what we got.
Yeah. It's still an amazing game. It's well worth playing and mucking about with.
Oh, definitely. And I've been smashing the hell out of that collection. There's also a nice feature on that collection where you can go into the menu. There's like a museum feature where you can just look at all the artwork and character designs. So even if you didn't end up picking up that physical book I mentioned earlier, if you did happen to get the collection, you'd still be able to look at digital versions of a lot of that.
They used to do stuff like that all the way back on PlayStation 1, Street Fighter Zero. So if you had the Japanese version, it would have like about 200 image art gallery that are just like JPEGs you could zoom in. But they didn't used to always put that stuff out in the West game. So it was nice they started putting things like that in these collections and retrospectives. Always love the Venom animations and Juggernaut all the way back from the X-Men. I love that they made him so massive he barely fits on the screen. It's just so cool.
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful looking game. MVC2, I have to say, just really, really looks great, and still looks great when you're playing it these days. As they all do. There's something timeless about these 2D fighters. They just aged really well.
The pinnacle of 2D artwork and animation was Capcom. I mean, SNK was their big rival, of course, who did quite distinct different art styles and that. But for this cartoony looking thing with like the most frames of animation, it is true animation. There's a lot of frames in animation that go into these characters.
Yeah, big time.
They actually became so expensive that it didn't really. Once you got to the 3D era, to go back and do this, it's basically prohibitively expensive to make games like this again now. For the same reason that like any kind of traditional 2D cell animation has gone away in favor of 3D. It's too time consuming and expensive to actually do it.
When they release like a new 2D or one of these nostalgia themed 2D games like He-Man or G.I. Joe, that's the reason why they're kind of expensive to download initially, because they actually do cost a bit of money to actually go and engineer these days.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that He-Man one. That looks excellent.
Yeah, that does look really nice. That will give it a spin when it arrives.
But yeah, we've come to the end credits.
Yeah, quite the journey, and I would definitely be curious about people's memories of these games, if they even came up on the radar at all. And I would wonder if there's anybody who maybe is not a gamer, but who kind of just is a big Marvel fan, who likes the look of like some of this artwork and some of these character designs compared to what you're used to looking at maybe in the comic books or whatnot, because there's definitely a very distinctive
anything on
art
home
style.
console, like you have Maximum Carnage and Venom Separation Anxiety and that sort of stuff. They were okay looking, but when you went to the arcade and saw these Capcom ones, you're like, holy crap, this is like the comic book artwork come to life, animated, and it looks better than watching a cartoon, because even though if you're watching the Spider-Man, you know, we talked about last week, the Fox shows, there's more frames of animation in that show, of course, because it's a fully animated show. But as far as the individual character cycle of Venom on the screen, he's way more detailed than you will see in, say, the cartoon of the era. So he looked amazing. It's something you would never seen anywhere else other than a pin-up page that's just like really super detailed and penciled. Panel to panel, artists have to draw fast, whereas here they've lovingly put in every little bit of detail and shading they could. His tongue would extend out. He's got the green slime dripping off his jaws, and it's beautiful.
Venom is easily one of the most fun characters to play as. Yeah, and he just looks beautiful. And like you mentioned, like some of the symbiote attack animations for his special moves are just class. Like they did a really, really bad.
Yeah, that one that would go like a shadow across the screen and they'd come up in the big tendrils and that, and where he turns into a whole mouth and just launches across the screen.
Yeah.
And even his wind pose, it would come up and the head would sit up next to him and you could see the Eddie Brock face underneath.
No, absolutely love it. Are we going to tell our audience what's coming up next week? Well, when we say next week, we just mean next show.
Next episode, whenever it may be.
Next episode.
Now,
yeah, whenever it may be.
Year, a million years in the future if you're out in space and some kind of time capsule. But Resident Evil, we're going to do a double. We've had a double feature of Marvel cartoons and then games. Now we're going that a different way. We're going Resident Evil toys, followed by the other week will be Resident Evil games. So yeah, we'll be checking out the classic Toy Biz Resident Evil toys, as well as the Palisades ones, because there's not that many, so I've crammed them all into one super show. In this picture here is my actual Palisades Tyrant, giving you the big claw on the screen, which is beautiful. Like, as soon as I thought of doing the show, well, I mean, you suggested Resident Evil, but in my head, I always think of that first Resident Evil and the Tyrant. I just love when he comes out of the capsule and that damn claw, you got to have it. It's my favorite thing.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'll be digging out some Toy Biz ones out of the storage to have a look at as well. No, it's going to be good.
I don't have my Toy Biz ones anymore. I used to have about half of them. I used to have that other little Tyrant as well until a few years ago. I sold some of them off just to sort of make space. But I love the little Tyrant. Here's the heart gimmick. You pump it and it does the blood in the heart. it's
cool. We do love our gimmicks here on the Boba Joe show.
And so the following episode will be Resident Evil versus Resident Evil, as in like we had the original games, particularly the first 3 games we're kind of leaning towards is not so much Resident Evil 9 or 10 or 12 up to now, if you follow the actual series and not the numbers. But this is like, they've done the remakes. They've done like Resident Evil 2, PlayStation, Resident Evil 2 remake on PS4, PS5, Switch, whatever the hell else is on. And this also the screen here, I've done like the Marvel vs. Capcom screens where it's like the teams like versus.
I love it. I love it. And I love it's old font versus new font, which I
Yeah.
always love to see as well. Yeah, it's all on the horizon here in Boba Joe Show. But definitely, folks, let us know how you feel about the Marvel and Capcom games. And yeah, looking forward to seeing
It's an era I
everybody.
definitely miss. There was a time when you could go into the arcade and there would be Marvel vs. Capcom, and there was still all the way back, like Street Fighter 2 Turbo was still sitting up the back of the room in this big arcade, and there was Darkstalkers, and there was Tekken, and there was Soul Edge, and there was Samurai Showdown, I don't know, 3 or 4, whatever that was. Just seeing all the stuff at the same time was like, wow.
Yeah, what a time. What a time. Love it. Absolutely love it.
But yeah, we'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in. Leave us a little
Take care.
like or comment. What was your favorite, least favorite game or character or whatever. I'll see you all next time.
Let us know. Take care, folks.